Hey guys, Cyndi Williams here, the Wanderlust CEO. Today we are talking about how do you start your own host agency? How can you start your own host agency in 2023? You've probably been scouring the internet. You've been looking through YouTube trying to find this information. And today you came across this video and nobody in the industry talks about this. In fact, the big hosts don't even want you to know this information. I am the only educator that I know of that actually teaches people how to open their own agency or host agencies. So we're going to share all the deets today. If you want to know the 5 things you have to have in place before you want to think about hosting agents, if you want to know why it's such a big secret, and also if you want to really talk about, are you personally ready for this journey? That's what we're doing on the show today. Keep on watching.
Come take my hand, I will walk with you. I won't let go till you say so. There isn't anything I wouldn't do. Wanna make sure that you understand.
All right, guys, don't forget to take a moment to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell over on YouTube. We bring you amazing content every single week to help you grow your businesses. And normally we are making videos for that newer aspiring travel agent or that experienced travel agent that's looking for some tips. But today we're going all the way to the top tier of the travel school, right? We're going to talk about if I want to be an agency owner or I want to maybe open my own host agency. What does that process even look like? Nobody shares this in our industry. It's kind of one of those things like if you are already running a great restaurant in town, are you going to teach someone how to run a great restaurant down the street, right? So it's kind of like an industry secret. But listen, I have a core philosophy in all of the work that I do that there's enough abundance for all of us. I have been training agency owners for years. In fact, we have a program that trains them on everything that they need to do for setup, process, all that good stuff. You can go over to travelschool.com and check out all of our offerings there. I'm going to give you the steps today, though, on what you need to think about. But this is one of those things where it's been such a rewarding part of my career to watch agency owners go through the process of 0 agents all the way up to hundreds of agents at this point, right? Man, we had our Gold Digger retreat a little while back, and every year we do these awards called our $1 Million Club and our multi-million-dollar club, and then we have another award that is our Pinnacle Award, which is for kind of our top agencies. Guys, if I tell you we have agencies that are doing everything, not just at that $1 million mark, but multi-millions in their agencies. And we have some of our grads going into 8 figures at this point. It's amazing. It's so exciting. So this is a really cool journey. And this is also one of those things where, it's like in the industry, like I said, there's not a ton of information. So I'm going to share all the deets today. Look, I'm an educator and this is what we do. So we're going to get into it. All right. So let's talk about first, why even be a host? Like, why do you want to be a host or why do you want to be an agency owner? So there's 2 kind of schools of thought. And I will say in the industry, there are some hosts out there that are really just get agents in and have them in the network and they're paying their monthly fees and we're getting a percentage of their commission. And it's a very transactional relationship. That is not the heart where I like to serve in that capacity, right? So there are models that do that. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing illegal with it. They set up the infrastructure and then it's a farm for agents, right? There's ones that have thousands and thousands and thousands of agents. But is that the best environment for agents to be in? So what I like to think about in terms of like why do it is, and we're going to get to like you assessing where you stand on it. So if you're doing it just for the sheer money, that might be a reason to do it because when you are hosting agents, you are earning a percentage of all of their commission based on how your hiring agreement is set up, what your commission split arrangement is. And keep in mind, because you might think, well, why was an agent going to want to host with me? Well, if you're taking the time to get credentials, if you're taking the time to set up a great model, branding wise, you're setting up a good system, that's what your job becomes as a host, to create that supportive, great environment. Some do it better than others, and I'm not going to get into all that today, but point being is I'm talking about you in this consideration phase if you're thinking about doing it, right? So the reasons why you would want to is You also get supplier perks and bonuses on top of the commission, the ability to earn money. Maybe you are tired of being the frontline agent and you really have that heart to step into leadership and you want to help empower others. Those are great reasons to think about hosting, right? So that's kind of my model. Like, I love empowering others to get into travel, live their best life, create the best businesses they want, whether it's a great solo shop or what you guys are thinking about, which is having your own agency. And for a lot of people that stumbled on this video, it might be because you want to move from salesperson to CEO, right? You want to start working on your business and not in your business. So those are the usual reasons of people why they want to go into that hosting. Or there's a lot of you that might be watching this video that you've already started hosting agents and you realized really quickly you cannot keep being the top salesperson in your agency and also be responsible for a team that has a million questions and maybe your infrastructure is or isn't set up to support the people you hired, right? And you're like, what do I do? So we're going to cover all of that today. In fact, let's get right into the 5 critical things that you need to do. And these are things that we teach and train on every single day. But I want you to think about this, because before you decide, yes, I have a heart for leadership. Yes, I want to empower others. Yes, I want to run my own host agency, or I want to have my own agency. All of that's great, but you better be prepared to do the next 5 things very, very well, because in fairness to the people that you're about to hire, it's your responsibility. Like, don't take this lightly. If you're going to step into that leadership role, please do these things at the highest level. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. Recruiting system. How are you going to recruit people? This was such a thing. And listen, when I started my agency, when I started hosting agents, none of this stuff was out in the industry. This is why it took a decade for us to get our systems and processes to where it was, and no one was sharing the information, right? It was a very like, hush, hush, and I'm not sharing with you, you're not sharing with me. Like, nobody was like transparent about how to do this. So I literally had to figure all of this stuff out, get it trained up, go out, seek other experts from other industries to create these processes. But in a good recruiting, if any of you have ever worked with an HR department closely, you know that you have to have a recruiting strategy, you have to have a recruiting plan, everything down from the ads that you're gonna put out there, and then how are you gonna filter all the responses that come in. That whole recruiting process, do not underestimate how important that is, because just like at one point you had to figure out how to get leads to come into your travel business, you have to figure out how to get prospective staff interested in working for you. And why do they want to work for you as a new host, right? And that's a lot of those mindset things that will kind of pop up, but you have to be clear on what is my recruiting strategy. So that's number 1. Number 2, okay, we got our first interview. What is my hiring process? You need to make sure you have a strong hiring process. There's also some things that you're supposed to do when you hire and not supposed to do when you hire. When I worked in corporate, I was the head of organizational development, and I got promoted to be the vice president of human resources. And so I learned a ton about recruiting, onboarding, and what you're supposed to do with hiring and not supposed to do with hiring. All of that experience came in so handy when I started doing this for my own agency. So knowing what are those questions that you're going to ask? How do you want to work through the hiring process? Once they're hired, what are the steps that you should do to finish the hiring? Are you going to do background checks? How are you going to file this paperwork? What are your contracts going to be? How are they going to renew the contracts? What are your commission splits going to be? There's a lot in that whole. We have a section in our program called Architecting Your Agency that walks you through making those decisions that then get integrated into, okay, this is our hiring process, and here's how we lay that out as prospective employees come in. Do not underestimate this. The other thing is a lot of ones that I work, because we have a lot of people that come into our Wanderlust CEO program where they've already hired 10 or 15. And they'll say, well, we didn't really do that, or we didn't have a process, or we just hired one to try out the process. It can be okay to do that. You're definitely going to have to learn by trial and error. But the difficulty is when you hire some under a different process, then you start bringing other ones in, then you're working on grandfathering people. So deciding on that hiring process from the beginning, just having it laid out, having it mapped, helps you helps you scale faster, because then you can just hire in larger quantities and more confidently. So hiring process. All right, number 3. How are you going to onboard these folks? Okay, you've had your recruiting ad, they feel good, you feel good, you're making a great hire. What is your formal onboarding process going to be? This is when your your contractor is going to figure out if you have your crap together or not, right? So, okay, we've signed all the paperwork. Now what? Is it crickets? Are you still selling and expecting them just to fiddle their way through life and become a great agent with no support? No, like what is your process going to be to usher them in to your company? What's that hand-holding going to look like? And by the way, if you are still selling, you got to figure out how to bridge that gap, because you now have a responsibility to these folks that you're hiring to make sure you're onboarding them successfully. What are your company's expectations? How are you going to lay those expectations out? Is it going to be a meeting? Is it going to be a handbook? Is it going to be, you have to go through these questions to make sure you have that onboarding process really solid. So right through hiring, they go right into onboarding and they're continuing on. All right, the next one is the biggest one. And I have a tiny bit, as you guys know, experience in training thousands and thousands of travel agents in my career. Training. And this is a tricky one, because if you're a host and you are hiring contract employees, you technically cannot require certain things of contract employees. So training can get a little sticky. Training is also one of those things, if you're building a training curriculum, I can tell you from experience, because I run multiple programs, as you guys know, at Careers on Vacation, you have to always be keeping that curriculum updated. It takes a lot of time, energy, people, resources to create a really robust training program. So you have to figure out what are the minimum things that you can do to kind of get them through that training process. And also, how do you want to be evolving the training that happens, but also not in conflict with any contractor rules that might be out there. We don't give legal or tax advice, so you want to run that across an employment attorney would be a great person to ask about that. But this is one of those where it can get overwhelming really, really fast, because here's the thing. You're watching this video because you're probably a superstar salesperson. Or you're already have your first few agents and you already have a super high work ethic. You're an A player. I'm going to break this news to you lightly. Not everybody is you, my love. Some people are going to need more guidance. Some people are going to need more support. They are not going to be a do-it-themselfer like you are. Oh my gosh. Whew. I had this epiphany when I was 27 years old and I got my first department to run of 150 people with 15 supervisors that reported to me. And I was like, wow, people don't work as hard as I do. Or like, I really have to follow up a lot with certain people because they didn't do what I asked them to do. And it was like so confusing to me. But from a leadership perspective, I go back and laugh now, because now I know, learning how to communicate, work with, train, coach, mentor people at all different levels. If you are good at that, you can get the underperformers to get in a place where they are performing. You just have to know what those levels are to pull, which is going to roll me into the next one. So, but with training, that's when you're going to find out, because people be like, I have a question. You'd be like, I literally page 7, mod 4, like it's right there for you. I spent all this time making this thing and you didn't read it. So, put a little heart if you can feel that, like if you already have a little agency and you're struggling with some of that, it's part of the process. But that's why the 5th and final step of structure and systems that you need to have in place is so important. This is the performance management tier. This is something that we teach when a CEO comes to us, right? A new CEO that's moving from salesperson to CEO, and we're teaching them how to put an agency together, how to become a host, how to do all those things. This is where most agencies fail. They do all the stuff, they do some training, and then boom, they leave their people to their own devices. You have to have a strong system in place to manage performance. How are you talking about your goals? How are you checking in? Do you have a trainer type person that's going to help with the under 90-day people versus the overnight? There's different things that we put in place structure-wise, but the whole goal is, don't just hire a bunch of people to collect monthly fees. Like if that's like what your goal is, I mean, honestly, have all the fun in the world you want, but we're not the company to help you. But if you are the company that wants to really empower people, support people in their growth, and do all of those things, that's where this performance management piece is so important. This is the piece that you're going to do because you do have that heart to lead, but because you also care about people. But this is one that people, they underestimate performance management, the process, and having a systems in place to make sure that you are getting people to be as successful as they can be, right? So here's the trick. Like if you have an underperformer or you have someone who's just not getting it or whatever, you get them to the place where you show them the success and you show them how to believe in themselves and you show them how to get there. Sometimes even if they're slow to start, they will become your top performers. And like, so this is where like there's so much low hanging fruit in our industry. And I think about all the hosts that have thousands of people, like if they just put like this much more effort into performance management support and layering that tier, and they would make so much more of the commission levels that they're bringing in, and their people would be so much more happier in that environment. But look, it is what it is. I'm talking to you, and that's what I want you focused on, is putting these in place so you can have that really core environment. If you do all 5 of those things properly and you get them set up, that's the formula, guys. That's the things you want to have in place so you can quickly scale and get people selling, so then you can comfortably be in the CEO spot where you're working on your business and not in your business. So how do you decide if you are ready to take on having a host agency? Ask yourself this. Do I want to be a CEO? Do I want to be in a leadership role every day? Do I want to not be selling anymore and be more in this support capacity and working on the growth strategies for the company? The answer is yes. That's an indicator that you're ready. Are you ready to get out of your comfort zone? I have had super experienced people come through this program. I've had people start and they already have 80 agents in their program come to us and help fix to get them more profitable and scale even more. But I always am looking for, I'm going to press you to get out of your comfort zone, because to get better in this area, we got to get better on different skill sets, sometimes for the CEO. So there, you are going to go through, you're going to have to be open to challenges, is what I'm getting at. And look, challenges are great because they help you grow. So don't, if you're down for it, like, yes. But if you're like, nah, I'm kind of happy, like, I guess I'll just stick with what you got then. Like, it's fine. Just keep living that best life as a solo agent. If you don't want to get out of your comfort zone, being a CEO is not for you, because you are always working on that next tier of growth. And there are so many tiers, guys. Like when I think about our Wanderlust CEOs that come in and have no agents, there's the first tier of building up to 15, then they build to 25, and then they build to 50, and then they build to 100. There is different skill set and different things that happen at all of those levels that they have to challenge themselves as leaders, and different infrastructure and different processes that we put in place as they go through that journey of scaling from 0 to whatever size they want to scale to. So, but at all stages, they are getting out of their comfort zone because they're doing stuff that is new. So make sure you're down for that. The other thing is, are you prepared to invest? Please do not try to start an agency or host other agents if you're not prepared to invest time, energy, or money in growing this thing. You're going to ask people to work for you and book under your credentials where you're going to benefit from that. You better be prepared to have as much value for them. It's really a responsibility that you're taking on, and you don't want to do that if you're not in a place where you're not willing to grow or you're not willing to invest to get the things that you need. And I'm not just talking about training. I'm talking about, you might need a tool, you might need infrastructure. You're going to have to maybe pay a payroll. As you grow, there's going to be different expenses that kind of pop up that you're going to have to layer in and think about. Now, if you're doing it right and you're doing it in a very scalable model, how we train our Wanderlust CEOs, you're not going to feel the weight of the investment too much. So that's a great thing. But you need to be prepared to go, if something pops up, I need to handle that. Like, you have to have E&O insurance for your whole agency now, not just for you. So we have a whole checklist and we give our Wanderlust CEOs, but I just want to throw that out there because remember, you're taking out, people are trusting you as their leader, and that's a big responsibility. So make sure that you have that in place and you have that support system. So guys, that is the skinny. This is I know I'm going to get so much hate on YouTube, probably from the big hosts that don't want you to know all this stuff. But listen, I don't care. I'm here to empower you guys. And what I do, here's the thing. When I went to Gold Digger Retreat, we had a giant retreat in Disney. We have more $1 million, multi-million-dollar agencies than ever. And everyone on those lists have been through, either my COV program or my Wanderlust CEO program. And when I was sitting there at the award ceremony, like watching these men and women who like, one, they trusted our business. A lot of them during COVID is when they built a lot of this architecture, but to see them like get to a place where they are thriving in the industry, they are disrupting the industry, they are building these amazing teams and amazing communities, and they're doing it in a way that it is not a membership cycling thing. They are empowering people. They're creating brands that are beautiful. We have so many earmarked clients that are with Disney, and if you don't know what earmarking is, you'd have to sell a certain amount of sales to get into that process. That is what I am most proud of. That what I was first most proud of in my career is empowering others to get into the industry, but the fact that I am now empowering leaders to now grow their teams. Whoo, it's the good stuff, you guys. So listen, whether you work with me or not, I wish you so much love, so much abundance. I wish you guys the world. But if you are interested in working with us to grow your agency or start your host agency, reach out to us at travelschool.com. You can find all of our information over there. We actually have a brochure for Wanderlust CEO that you can download. So that's on there too. And it talks about some of our success stories of our agents. So lots of great information on that. But guys, I'll see you next week. I hope you love this video. Bye guys.
It's calling me, like the rainbow, It's calling me, like the rainbow.
Hey guys, Cyndi Williams here. If you like that last video, make sure you check out all of the other content on our channel. And if you want to follow along and travel with me around the world and see how I run my amazing travel brands and get some great tips on how to grow your own, make sure you check out that other content. I'm going to drop a couple videos here. Click those links. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.
It's calling me.